Donald Trump's ordering the Iranians to surrender unconditionally. Last night, he warned everybody to flee the capital, and now Tehran's a ghost town. Surgical strikes target Iranian nuclear scientists and military commanders have taken their toll. Windows have turned to powder, and the lobby of buildings are gone. Overnight, Israel continued to pummel missile and drone infrastructure in the western part of the country. Tel Aviv says they've destroyed over 120 Iranian missile launchers since Thursday. That's about 40% of their missile capacity. They also took out Iran's top general early this morning. He was only at the job for 4 days after his old boss was executed. Israel's already slaughtered 11 senior Iranian generals, but the regime is retaliating tonight with a barrage of ballistic missile strikes against the Jewish state. Our very own Trey Yingst just had to duck for cover in Tel Aviv on the 5.
Air defense systems are currently active over Tel Aviv with hundreds of thousands of people into bomb shelters at this moment. Unhook. Get off. All right, we got it. We're going to move. Okay. Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. Keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving.
The IDF says 80 to 90% of Iran's missiles are being intercepted by the Iron Dome and by U.S. missile defense systems in the region. And they have something up their sleeve. Israel says the Beeper operation will seem simple compared to what it has in store next. The Israeli ambassador is promising a number of surprises when the dust settles within the next 24 hours. Netanyahu still isn't ruling out an assassination strike against the Ayatollah.
It's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict. We've had half a century of conflict spread by this regime that terrorizes everyone in the Middle East, has bombed the Aramco oil fields in Saudi Arabia, is spreading terrorism and subversion and sabotage everywhere. That's the forever war is what Iran wants, and they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war.
Netanyahu says killing the Iranian leader will be the end of the conflict, but it could also be the beginning of the conflict, because the next Ayatollah could be even nastier. The White House's thinking right now is it's the Ayatollah you know versus the Ayatollah you don't know. That's not to say Trump couldn't decide to swoop in and do some gigantic action. Trump already rejected Israel's original plan for regime change, but he wants Khomeini to know that he's the one keeping him alive. Quote, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader's hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin." Trump says the Iranians missed the opportunity of a lifetime.
I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. Their cities have been blown to pieces. They've lost a lot of people. They should have done the deal. I told them, do the deal.
Trump always wanted a deal, but Netanyahu, after October 7th, had decided he was going to strike Iran anyway, with or without the United States, regardless of whether we were negotiating. Netanyahu even asked Trump for the bunker busters, but Trump said no and was focused on signing a deal, but began to feel the Iranians were stringing us along. And after they missed their deadline and the clock ran out, he let Israel go hard the very next day. And now Trump has a big decision to make. The U.S. and Israel control the airspace over Iran. Their proxies have been gutted. Our sanctions are strangling the country, and Israel's conducting sabotage and espionage activity inside of their borders. The U.S. naval assets have surged into the region, encircling the regime in the Arabian Sea, the Gulf, and in the Mediterranean. Sources say B-52s are stationed in the Indian Ocean within striking distance of Iran. And Trump says this country cannot have a nuclear weapon.
It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Or what are you looking for here?
An end. A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that would be permanent.
Yeah. Or giving up entirely.
Is
That's
that
okay too.
Are you close there? Is that possible? Is that possible in the next 24,
Why
48
not?
hours?
Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible.
Trump's orchestrating a massive pressure campaign to ensure the Iranians never get a nuke. Politico says it's the most consequential decision of his presidency. The Trump administration doesn't want to barrel into risky missions or regime changes, but they recognize there's a historic window of opportunity to solve a problem that's vexed U.S. presidents for decades: how to fully eliminate the Iranian nuclear program. Does the president authorize American pilots to fly B-2 bombers over Iran and drop a series of bunker busters on Fordow, the underground Iranian nuclear facility? Or does he let the Israeli air campaign put Khomeini under so much pressure that he crawls back to the negotiating table and signs away his nuke program peacefully? Trump met with his national security team earlier today and is carefully deliberating. The president just finished a call with Netanyahu this afternoon and is keeping all options on the table. He's considering dispatching J.D. Vance and negotiator Steve Witkoff to the region, while also getting assets in place if he decides to strike. Israel can't eliminate the Iranian nuclear threat by themselves. They have their own bunker busters, but none of them are powerful enough to pierce 300 feet deep underground. There's only one bomb for the job, and we have it: the MOP. The massive ordnance penetrator weighs 30,000 pounds. It's so heavy that it can only be lifted by an American B-2 bomber. And once it drops, it explodes horizontally and vertically. We've been working on it for 20 years. Trump tested one during his first term, and it's fully operational. We've used variations of bunker busters in the past, in the Iraq War to destroy deep Iraqi command centers, and then in the Afghanistan war to target al-Qaeda caves. They look like this. Using bunker busters against Iran's nuke sites doesn't come without a risk. The Iranians have stated that if the United States does take offensive action against them, they'll target U.S. bases and the U.S. Navy in the region. If we decimate their nuke site, we'll take away their only leverage, and they could lash out unpredictably. A dirty bomb, suicide bombers, assassination attempts. Who knows? We'd have to deal with the consequences. The United States targeting Iran's nuclear facilities doesn't necessarily lead to regime change. It could domino into regime change, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee it. The commander-in-chief has campaigned against regime change and expensive quagmires, but in the first term, he wasn't shy about taking decisive action to eliminate threats when opportunities presented themselves, striking Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, and bombing ISIS off the map. No one in the administration is considering putting boots on the ground. That's what we think. But bunker busters against Iranian nuke sites would be a bold and dramatic escalation. J.D. Vance says whatever he decides, Trump will make the right call. Quote, "People are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy, but I believe the president has earned some trust on this issue. And having seen this up close and personal, I can assure you that he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus."
Now, less than 24 hours after Donald Trump warned everyone to evacuate Tehran, wow, Donald Trump puts out this on social media. The highways out of Iran's capital were absolutely, positively packed with cars. Millions appear to be listening to Donald Trump and taking the president's words rightly very seriously. Unfortunately, over the past 2 months, the mullahs of Iran, they failed to do the same. As the president put it, quote, "Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. What a shame, a waste of human life." Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, unquote. That is the Trump doctrine, for those of you that don't understand. It is common sense. Big part of the Trump platform, he would say it over and over again. Our platform is that of common sense. The #1 state sponsor of terrorism that has threatened to wipe Israel and the United States off the map repeatedly and fired, either themselves or through their proxies, what are hundreds of thousands of rockets over the years at this small country. This is something the president has emphasized over and over again. He has done it over the years. Look at your screen and watch.
Believe me, Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, that I can tell you. Most importantly, the United States and Israel can declare with one voice that Iran must never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon. Never, ever. We affirm that Iran must never be allowed to obtain, under any circumstances, a nuclear weapon. In order to ensure the other big move, the Iranian regime never obtains nuclear weapons. A regime with this track record must never be allowed to possess a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Thank you very much.
Now, take a look at your screen. The president, look at this. He has been saying these exact words going back to 2011, steady, firm, and consistent. And tonight, the American people overwhelmingly agree the country's most accurate pollsters, that would be Trafalgar, Insider Advantage. They nailed the 2016, 2020, 2024 presidential elections. They posed the following question, and it is right to the heart of the issue here. What is your opinion of President Trump's position that Iran must be prevented from developing a nuclear weapon, adding, by any means necessary? Take a look at your screen. A whopping 75% of the American people agree with the president. And according to a Harvard-Harris poll, 85% of voters say Iran should not be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. A majority of voters also want the president to take out Iran's nuclear program with a military operation. And another poll, well, from Insider Advantage, has the president's approval rating above water, 10 points above water, outpacing past two-term presidents by far. Now, this brings us to a critical question at this hour. Israel has successfully now targeted two of the three most major Iranian nuclear facilities. The third location, the Fordow enrichment plant that Jennifer Griffin was talking about, is buried deep under a mountain. This is south of Tehran. This is believed to be the most significant and secretive nuclear facility inside of Iran. In order to prevent the mullahs from getting a nuclear weapon, this facility must be destroyed. Tonight, the way I see it, there are three options. One, Israel could use a tactical nuclear weapon to wipe out the site. They don't have bunker buster bombs. That would obviously be not only highly controversial, but come with massive risks to the region. It is not a good option. Option number two, Israel can send in a team of commandos on the ground, also very risky with a much lower chance of success. The third best option involves the United States of America, our military, which is equipped with these 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs capable of penetrating that mountain. Israel does not have this critical weapon in its arsenal, and they do not possess the large bombers that are capable of dropping an ordnance of that size. So now President Trump has a decision to make. Will he deliver the final blow to Iran's nuclear program? Will he rid the world of this clear and present danger and this existential threat? Will he end Iran's threat of nuclear terror once and for all and make the world a safer place for generations to come? This is not an easy decision for anybody. And let me be clear, it is not without its own risks. But ask yourself these questions. Would the world be better off without the world's #1 state sponsor of terror that has fired hundreds of thousands of missiles into Israel, either by themselves or through their proxies? Should they have nuclear weapons? Do the people of Israel and the rest of the region deserve a chance to live in peace without the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran? They would hold the world hostage. How many rockets, ask yourself, launched into our country, a small town, a big city in the United States? How many missiles would it take for you to demand that your country fight back? And again, this isn't just about Israel. All of Israel's neighbors in the Arab world, they want Iran's nuclear program dismantled. Nobody's speaking out on behalf of Iran. This is also about the United States. The Islamic Republic of Iran doesn't just threaten Israel. They have vowed to destroy our country, kill our people. Let's go back to your screen. The threats and acts of violence have been nonstop since the Iranian Revolution. That was in 1979. Jimmy Carter was president. Remember, Iran's extremists under the Ayatollah Khomeini, their regime seized America's embassy in Tehran. They took 66 American hostage, 444 days. Iran was also behind the 1983 Beirut bombing of a Marine Corps barracks. 241 Marines died that day. A suicide bombing at America's embassy in Beirut, that killed 17 Americans, also directed by Iran. The mullahs were also behind the attack of the Khobar Towers, killing another 17 American troops. Shia militias, backed by Iran, have also been responsible for countless deadly terror attacks against the U.S. Troops in Iraq. Iran also launched a massive missile attack on U.S. bases in Iraq in 2020, injuring over 100 American servicemen and women. There were also reportedly multiple attempts by Iran to assassinate President Trump. Remember, we've talked a lot about Iranian assassination squads, thanks to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mayorkas, complicit media, and complicit Democrats that told us the border was closed and secure and lied to us. Anyway, by the supreme leader threatening all-out war against the United States this year. 2 years ago, Iran vowing that the U.S. would suffer heavy losses. Iran's naval commander threatened to sink U.S. ships in the Gulf. In 2022, Iran declared that it can use nuclear missiles to turn New York into hellish ruins. And, of course, the unofficial motto of Iran: death to Israel, death to America. And by the way, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a new threat issued almost every day. Do you really want a country like that in possession of a nuclear weapon, or would the world be wise and smart, and would we be applying common sense by taking this threat out while we own the skies over the entire country of Iran? Sadly, the Democratic Party, they're too busy playing politics, being crazy, to even care. In addition to the riots and the anti-Semitism, obsession with gender identity, now Senator Tim Kaine, he's now trying to shield Iran, limit Trump's authority as commander-in-chief with a new resolution that would require congressional approval before any action against Iran. Of course, Tim Kaine didn't push for a similar bill when a mentally inept and cognitively compromised Joe Biden was president. For the crazy Democratic Party, everything's about power and politics. Now, this all started with Barack Obama. How we never got to the bottom of that idiotic Iranian deal, payloads of cash given to Iran, $1.7 billion. That cash payment alone, bankrolling hundreds of ballistic missiles and fomenting terror all throughout the region. Over 1 million rockets you can buy with that amount of money. Joe Biden, well, he let them get even richer because he didn't enforce the sanctions that was bankrupting Iran that Donald Trump had put in place. And now, per usual, it is up to Donald Trump to clean up their mess. The good news, our president has a plan. It is not forever wars. That is part of the Trump doctrine. Or boots on the ground. That is not part of the Trump doctrine. Common sense is, and Iran not having a nuclear weapon also is. Iran will simply never have one. And the threat posed by the Islamic Republic will be over.
We didn't know it, but on that day, politics changed forever. And it may be the most monumental TV moment ever, at least since Evel Knievel jumped over the cast of The View. But there, Trump was blunt, harsh even. We never heard someone state our problems so clearly. He wasn't like the old politicians. Sure, he'd call Rosie O'Donnell a dog, but he wouldn't eat one or strap one to a car. Like those two guys, in case you don't remember. All right, fine. And when the media saw it, they deemed him a clown. But it turns out they were the ones wearing red noses, giant shoes, and shoveling elephant.
I'm just really happy right now. A billionaire vanity candidate taking the escalator to the White House.
We better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next.
I know you don't believe that.
It's like I can't tell if this is politics or if this is just PR from a celebrity.
Do you have any doubt that this is anything more than a carnival show?
Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
Now, I can make fun of those idiots, except I was one of them. I, too, was taken aback by Trump. I wasn't used to such honesty from a politician. And I didn't hear the facts. I only heard the tone. And as it turned out, I was wrong. He was just stating the truth everyone else was too afraid to say. When he said Mexico was allowing criminals into our country, people called him racist. He wasn't. He was just right. But more than right, he saw the future, and it was a three-part tragedy. Part one came the warning. Part two came the invasion. And part three, the separatist revolt. And so Trump came, went, and then returned. But during that intermission, our country and that fake president we had decomposed before our eyes. We saw a systematic destruction of our border. To this day, it's still unclear who was the Jim Henson controlling that Muppet in the White House. But millions of illegals poured in, including mostly military-age men. Where did they go? Well, we saw many overflowing our hotels whose rooms we paid for. They were on the streets, many were in gangs. And there in L.A., there they were waving flags, demanding independence from the country that they invaded. In effect, the Dems destroyed the appeal and necessity of legal immigration because we now had more illegals than legal. Invading was simply easier than waiting your turn. But when Trump returned, he was going to fix the problem that first propelled him to the presidency. And what happened? The border was made as tight as Nancy Pelosi's face. Immediately, cartels were designated as foreign terrorists and illegal criminals were taken off the streets. Nearly 1 million people have already self-deported. I haven't seen that many people run for the exits since Dana ordered a chili dog at Citi Field. And now he's ordering ICE to focus on Democrat-run sanctuary cities like LA, Chicago, and New York. And why not? Sanctuary cities were the magnet for mayhem, a fake empathy that we all had to suffer through, generating misery in every city it appeared. If the border was the unlocked door, the sanctuary city was the wallet left on the dresser. Of course, Dems see that Trump's remedy to the problem that they created. Gavin Newsom called Trump's new directive an excuse to keep breaking the law and consolidate power. It's statements like that that confirm my belief that hair products cause dementia. J.P. Pritzker called it an ill-conceived mission, much like the time he got lodged in the Taco Bell drive-thru. But it's all a lie. They pretend to hate the process when, in fact, they hate the goal. They embraced the Maryland dad and denied the riots because, for one reason, to subvert the only sensible solution we had, deportation. So they don't merit our attention. They can't scream empathy when they lack none for missing exploited kids or the rape and murder of victims of illegals. It reminds me of the story about a man who did CPR on a crash victim. He saved her life, but instead of gratitude, the victim sued him for breaking her ribs. That's the Dems. They put us on a path to destruction and sue the man who's trying to save us. And now they're expecting us to listen because his methods upset him? Sorry, the adults are back. Here's a coloring book. Go in the other room and shut the up. Let's welcome here he is tonight's guest. His greatest talent is an immunity to pepper spray. Star of the new comedy special Unconceivable on YouTube, Jim Norton. He once sawed a woman in half so he could have a threesome. Magician and illusionist Chris Angel. She's back to host now that her cancer is toast. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Cat Tiff. And he's dropped more pounds than Prince Andrew at a strip club. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion Tyrus. Jim, you're legendary at getting people to self-deport your shows.
You know, Greg, that would have been so much nicer if you stopped after legendary.
What do you make of these self-deportations? Is that kind of what Trump's initial gift is that he creates the atmosphere to incentivize leaving?
Yeah, but I mean, he's right. If people are here illegally, they should just go and then come back legally. It's not a crazy thing to expect. And the thing that's appealing about him to people is he's unscoldable. There's something about Trump that people like the things that would break politicians back. They say something wrong and people like, that was upsetting. And they're like, oh God, I'm sorry. And he just won't break. There's something about that was really an attractive quality. And I think that Democrats never understood why people liked him, so they underestimated them, and then they underestimated him again. They didn't understand that there wasn't a bunch of dummies who don't know anything who are just voting for a bombastic guy. It was that they hate all of you. All of these people who are currently in these situations and politicians they hate. So that they like him by default. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I think personally I was jealous because I had been talking about being too politically correct and all of these things. And he kind of did it in a bigger way. And it was like, damn him.
He did it live on the news when there was polls and he was looking for votes and he just said what he wanted to say.
Yeah.
And if you like it, you like it. Like the John McCain thing, he survived that.
Yeah.
That was a big one and people are like, oh, it's going to hurt him. It didn't hurt him.
I thought that would end it. Didn't at all. Chris, when Trump first came down the escalator, did you immediately get it, or were you like me, who was like, wait a second?
I didn't know exactly if it was a PR stunt or not. But, Trump is loved, hated, but never ignored.
Yeah.
So you think about pre-president, he's out there, he's doing, The View 18 times, rubbing elbows with Whoopi and the Clintons and Al Sharpton. And then he becomes president, and then life is death without change. Everybody pivots. And it's because, he's like a magician, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because, a magician, when I came out, they all had tuxedos on. No one looked like this. No one did the things that I did. And he wasn't a politician. So he came out and just took back the curtain and exposed what, Washington and what the government and what bureaucracy really looked like. And I think a lot of people are in fear of their livelihood because it's a deep state.
Yeah, you're saying you're the Donald Trump of magicians.
Well, you said that.
Yes. Is that build a curtain? That was I do not deserve applause for that, Kat. I do not deserve applause, but I'll take it because I'm a sad, needy person.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. Don't you agree in some ways that this whole problem with the border has made legal immigration worse because we've forgotten all of these people that are trying to get in?
Yeah, well, I think that's really sad. I think there should be an easier path for people to come here legally, people who want to work, people who want to contribute to the economy. I also think that I was someone who didn't get it. I mean, if you would have gone back 10 years and we'd be sitting here today talking about President Trump 10 years later, I would have been like, get the out of here. There's no way.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of those people that you played in that segment, they were also the ones putting him on TV. A lot of the people who later complained about him were putting him on TV. And the more that he spoke on TV, the more they were like, can you believe he said that? And I think what I heard from people who supported him at that time, some of the first people to support him, straight up said, I'm supporting him because everyone's against him. So they essentially turned this super rich guy into a victim of sorts and the underdog of sorts. And people kind of, I think, thought of the times they were kind of scolded by people for saying something. And it was the height of some of this cancel culture of you say the wrong thing and then you're a bad person. And I think that made him, nobody saw it coming that it was going to make him more popular.
A few people did.
A few people did.
I mean, Steve Bannon was there from day one, Tyrus. Were you day one or did you take some, it's 10 years ago. Were you here 10 years ago?
Yes. I didn't say much because I didn't get paid then. So, I'm just not going to spit gold for free.
Wait, were you here? Have you been here for 10 years?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, 10 years, Greg. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, or nine years, 10 months, and 4 hours, whatever, however you want to break it down to the stat people. But yeah, it's been a long time. Actually, when I came on, you used to make Kat stay in the corner and only critique at the end. Oh yeah. Remember that Kat would do the thing who made mistakes?
Are you serious?
Yeah, and you had that genius liberal talking guy on the wall.
The talking wall.
Yeah, R.I.P. And the worst part is you made me carry you through the door on the first show.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but here's the reason why you have to give the Democrats credit, or the extreme left or the propaganda media, for helping President Trump make 1 million people self-deport. Because they said he was Hitler. They did this world propaganda to make him worse than one of the actual worst people in the world, feeling-wise. So it was very easy when he says, I'm going to come get you. They made him the boogeyman, and they believe him, so they left. So in a way, they get credit. They created the monster. They just didn't realize the monster wasn't the little guy behind the thing, but was the wizard. He was an actual monster if you want to play. The reason why he connected so much, and the reason why I early on was like, yeah, he's got a shot, because he didn't change who he was. And that's the most important thing. He was the way he was, and then when he decided to run, he didn't change. And that was refreshing to Americans. That was refreshing that a guy who cussed before he ran for president, all of a sudden he runs, now he's Jesus' best friend.
Yeah.
No, President Trump told you like it was, whether you wanted to hear it or not. And then when he ran, he turned it up a notch.
Yeah.
So that's why we're like, oh, man, I wish I could do that at my job. Well, I kind of do, but I'm just saying that was what made it contagious, because he was saying, like, everyday people cuss. Everyday people don't always say the right thing. Every one of us has a mistake or something in our past. He didn't run from it. He didn't try to hide it.
Yeah.
And I think that courage and aggressiveness, Americans really got behind.
Yeah. And also, he banged porn stars. And that's something I can get behind.
With a stepladder.
Yes.
Yeah. If you agree.
Yes, if you agree.
Well, technically, he would get behind
Savalas.
All right. You're dirty.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.